The morning of April 9th, 2006. Jay woke to find his daughter JD in her bassinet, tangled in her blanket. The world seemed like an echo when Jay moved those covers. He had never experienced anything as horrible. Jay felt a million emotions all at the same moment. His baby was gone, and as a man and father, there was nothing he could do. Jay had been raised in an army family, always taught to be stoic and take action. In the chaos that came, Jay worried about the well-being of his wife, Dee, and his son. When the detective stood whispering in the driveway, the EMTs took JD away. They asked Jay and Dee to come and answer some questions. At the station, they were taken to a room that said Child Crimes. The room had a two-way mirror and a short table and children's toys. The room and what it represented was disturbing. Jay talked about the night before and that morning. He was asked about postpartum depression and if Dee had it. Jay did know what it was and what they were insinuating. He ended the interview. Next, Dee was taken in the room. After telling her mother what they said, Dee's mother grew worried. She listened at the door. She said she could hear crying. As Dee's mother and Jay listened, the detectives opened the door. Dee was crying and said she was scared. They left her alone in that room for a long time. The detective insisted Jay drink a can of Sprite and later collected it without touching the can. Jay realized that this was not right. Jay and Diana left the station feeling preyed upon. When they came home, the detective called and wanted a second interview the next day and ordered that they give Alex to Jay's parents. Till this day, the police maintain that Jay and Diana had no reason to be upset or get a lawyer. Jay's in-laws grew outraged about Alex. They demanded that Jay do something, anything. They brought Jay a phone book and told him to call a lawyer, the coroner's office, and a funeral home. They were unrelenting. They said they wanted answers now. Not one of them ever asked Jay how he was doing. They simply didn't care. They would be willing to do anything for Dee, no matter what. The next day, Jay and Dee saw a child custody lawyer about Alex. First, they were told not to talk to the police again, even if they were arrested. Then they asked for money. When they didn't see the detective that day, he was irate and demanded to know where they were and told him that he was taking Alex. Jay's mom and dad got a phone call from the detective. He said he wanted to come get Alex, but Jay's dad said no, we'll bring Alex to you. Jay's mom and dad drove to the police station with Alex. When they got there, they was escorted down in the basement where the detective's office was. There was a child service person also there. Her name was C.J. Cross. The detective started screaming right away. He started yelling that Jay must be guilty because the attorney died. Then he went into another room and left the door cracked open while he got on the phone. Meanwhile, the child service lady said she wanted to ask questions about Alex because they were going to take him into custody. They said they was taking him to get a physical. They asked about his health. Then they asked about his general likes and dislikes. They said they were going to take temporary custody of him. Then they told Jay's parents that they may be able to get custody of Alex, and then they said permanent custody. And she started asking more questions. Then she started asking personal questions about Jay and Diana. Jay's mom said that's enough, we're not answering any more questions. Then I heard the detective in the other room say, to someone, whoever he was talking to on the phone, what about the other mother? Can we get her to answer questions and promise her custody? They took Alex. Another child service lady came in the room. They handed him to her. She took him. They said they was going to give him a physical in a room in that building. When Jay's parents were leaving in the parking lot, they saw them placing Alex into a car, in a car seat, driving off. Jay had no clue what his in-laws had told the detectives, but the court gave Alex to his sister-in-law in exchange for some information. Jay and Dee fought for custody of Alex until they were given two options: sign him over to his aunt, or he would go to a foster home. Without an alternative, they signed him over. Jay has not seen Alex in 8.5 years. The coroner took 6 months to find the cause of death. We only found out after every news and radio station reported that J.D. was murdered. It seemed impossible to Dee and I. We replayed that day over and over, and how could the coroner come to that conclusion? He never came to Jay and Diana's home. No one ever closed the room, and an investigator for the coroner came but did not do a full investigation. The coroner never spoke to Dee or Jay about J.D.'s medical condition or family medical history before making his determination. Former attorney generals would agree this coroner did not do his job properly. Several state and child experts have reviewed these findings and disagree with the coroner's ruling, but they have been denied access to the evidence. Jay was arrested 2 years later and tried for murder. He faced the death penalty, but the prosecutor offered Jay 15 years. Not much of a deal if you're innocent. At trial, we listened to the medical opinions from both sides, but whoever you believed, none of it proved someone was guilty. In the end, what was used against Jay was that he got a lawyer, that he listened by the door, that he called the coroner's office, that he followed a lawyer's advice, that he put J.D. to bed, and that he didn't cry enough. His in-laws conveniently left out that they told him to call all those places and listen by the door, or that they drove them to the lawyer's office. The jurors chose to ignore the untested hair, they chose to ignore that Dee checked on the children at 1 a.m. through the time of death was 9 to 9:30. After the trial, Jay's appellate lawyer saw him once. He told him he was a good friend with the trial counsel and wouldn't claim they were ineffective. He ignored all Jay's claims, and even after Dee told him she was threatened and was recorded, he raised only a single claim. 4 years later, when the trial judge retired, his successor turned over a report from the juror commission. 2 jurors discussed being victims of similar crimes. When the jurors are chosen, they have to reveal these things, and omitting that is against the court rules. Now these jurors refuse to talk to the investigators. It is ironic that Jay, remaining silent, made him look guilty, and now they chose to remain silent. Every day Jay spends in prison, he fulfills Father from truth, freedom, and happiness. He hopes that with help, he can find legal help to further investigate these issues. God bless.